Greetings, it is I, Susie Q, witching up in your field, lighting up, turning you on, and illuminating the goodness in your field, right? So we're really going to be talking about the field today, and it's super, super duper groovy. Okay, so we're back on the series. It's called A Life Review with No Physical Ascension, and today is part five of a life review with no physical ascension. And so I'll just go over a little bit about what that means is that oftentimes when we go back to source or God, and maybe we might have some level of review or understanding about our lessons and our purpose, but we're already out of body. But with the life review with no physical ascension, it means that we have opportunities to take a look at things differently, and just kind of find the guidance and the wisdom and the learning and just newer ways of looking at some of the things that we've experienced in this lifetime, right? And a lot of it's about just letting it go, let it go, let it go. All right, so this is part five of life review with no physical ascension, and today we're going to do about three little bullet points on this. It's super fun. I'm having so much fun doing this. And what's really fun is I had a friend from Houston that connected with me, and we just had lunch. We had a beautiful sharing today with a beautiful friend, Peggy Sue Skipper, out of, she was in Houston, and now she's kind of in Dallas, the Dallas area, somewhere in that area. McKinney, I think, is where she's at. All right, so super exciting. All right, so the first one is we're going to talk about, this was maybe around, we're still in that 2015 energies. That's when that Kundalini, the awakening, and all the gifts came in, and it was like, whoa, it was so freaking loud, right? So anyway, so this is really interesting. So I used to lead a women's group back in 2015. It was super awesome, super amazing, and it was a great group of women. It was super fantastic. I absolutely loved all of the women there. And then one morning when we were leading, this woman sat, she was a guest, and she sat right next to me. And the whole time I kept thinking, I want to get to know this person. I want to get to know this person, right? And she was sitting right there to my left, right? And then, but we had to keep it, effective action and, monitoring our time spent during this networking group with these beautiful women. And so the very end of the networking group, is that I just said, listen, I don't know what you do, but I feel like I'd like to connect with you, and I feel like I'd like to have a deeper connection with you. And so we just, changed business cards and everything. And I was so drawn to her, right? Totally drawn to her. And so this is so crazy. So I was kind of reaching out to her, and I said, I don't really know what you do, but I feel like I need to have a session with you. And I didn't even know what her sessions were. And she kept saying, well, I'm getting ready to go to John of God down in Brazil. I've got kids. I'm a nurse. I'm doing all this other stuff. And she said, I really don't have time because I'm getting ready to go to Brazil. And so I just was like, please, I just feel like I knew when you sat next to me, I could feel your energy. And I really, if you can make time for me, can we please do that? And so I was kind of begging her. I was kind of begging. And she finally said, okay. All right. So basically, we had an appointment. So it was over there. So it was a lot of begging, right, to get to the appointment before she left for Brazil. And even with the Brazil thing, John of God did some healing on me from remotely. So it was like kind of all this crazy stuff has been kind of welcoming these new guides or these new energies in support of my beautiful divinity. All right. So she came to my house. I didn't really know exactly what she did. I didn't really care what she did. But I said, well, what exactly is this? And she said, it's called Reconnective. And that's the work of Dr. Eric Pearl. He was a chiropractor out of California, and he's got his own practice, and he's teaching other people how to do reconnection. So I just kind of took a real quick glance at it before, she came in for the visit. So anyway, it was kind of interesting. So it was called Reconnection, and it's a chiro that was in California, the work of Eric Pearl with Reconnection. Okay, so anyway, so she set up a massage table for me, and then I laid on it, and I'm a yogi, I'm a meditator, and so I just kind of got really relaxed. And okay, here's the next bullet. The next bullet is the next bullet is this. Okay, so I'm in this session, And I had already had a lot of uncanny spiritual gifts that had come in, and then this is a whole new web to weave, right? This is like a super fun energy that we're gonna be stepping into. So even now, just like me, like kind of looking at it, reminding or remembering that event, it was just super powerful. So basically, I'm in a meditative state, and I'm used to being in stillness and being in a meditative journey. so, so what was interesting about it was I just noticed that through another part of sight or vision, I was able to see 8 different beings that were working with me. So on the sides of the massage table, there were 3 beings on both sides. There was one that was holding my crown the entire time, and then there was one at my feet. And when I looked at the what the beings looked like, they were completely the same looking, right? They looked exactly the same, and they were basically bent over my body. Now they didn't have arms. They really didn't have a distinction of the face. They just had a sense of form, but I didn't see arms and or anything. But it was really interesting, and even with the one that was holding my crown here, it was fascinating because I really felt like I can't remember my friend's name at this time, but it felt like she was just holding my head, So it was like just like right here. They were just, the energy was really just kind of really holding my head or my crown or right below the crown. So, and then all of a sudden, once I started getting those impressions, 3 on the side, one at the head, and one at the feet, I started kind of getting some what we call electrical currents. I had lines and currents of energy, and a lot of it was around my gut area, my core here. Some of it was on my lower back. At one point, in some way, my hand was lifted up like this. And again, they didn't have hands, but just my hand came up like that. And also the awareness of somebody holding my head, although I never saw that they had arms. They didn't have arms, right? It was really, really interesting. But I really could really connect with those lines and currents. They were probably about, maybe at that time, maybe about 5 or 6 inches of lines and currents of energy. And it was just kind of moving throughout the body. And I felt really safe and loved when that was going on, because I was like, I'm not really sure what we're doing here. And I kind of thought that that practitioner was holding my head and maybe she was creating something. But I was so peaceful and I could see those beings. And I just was like, oh my God, this is so freaking cool. And they were, like I said, they were all the same. They all were total same, right? And all I could see was they were kind of bending over from what we call the waist. And so they were kind of leaning in, and they kind of did it with synchronicity, that they were all kind of doing the same thing at the same time. Very, very powerful. And it was so weird because when she was kind of bringing me out of that meditation, I just couldn't stop. I just was like, I want more of this. It felt so loving and so complete, and so kind of illuminated some newer ways of me looking about my healing journey. What would it be like to have a better and more easy way of accepting guidance from maybe the higher realms or from other beings that are in support of my beautiful body, right? Okay, so let me see where we're at now. Okay, so she kind of got me out of it. I really didn't want to come up. I really was just swimming in goodness and swimming in a healing energy or healing vibration. And so she started talking to kind of get me just to kind of like go, okay, what's going on? And so anyway, so the next thing I did was I just said, well, so were you holding my head the whole time? She said no. I said, well, I felt somebody or something was holding my head. She said, I was about 15 feet away from you. I was never that close. And then I asked, did you bring, because this is part of, I guess it was more about the reconnection, but I also think about those crystal beds with John of God. But anyway, I think she just said, no, I'm not doing, I asked, do you bring your own beings, or are there other beings that come with it? And she said, no. I don't bring anything with me. So basically, the energies that were coming through were, I guess part of my team. Super fun. Anyway, so that was very, very interesting. So that was back in maybe August or September of 2015. And that kind of opened up a whole new experience for me, completely a whole new experience for me. And so from those experiences, from going to that network meeting and then really begging that person to come in and give me a session, and then we had those 8 beings. And so there was all that charging energy when I was on the massage table, getting all those lines and currents of energy. All right. So those are the 3 talking points. Now I would like to go into a bonus round. So once I had that experience with the reconnection with my sweet friend, is that I started wanting to have more of that, and so I would go into my own personal meditation. I'd be on my bed or laying down someplace, and then I would start asking, "I'd like to see you again." So I'd be asking in a nice way, very polite, "I'd like to see you again." And the answer was no. I said, "I'd like to hear your voice. I'd like to hear a sound." The answer was no. And there might have been a couple other questions, and the answer was no. And then finally I said, "Can we bring in some of that electrical current?" And it was a yes. So this is the bonus round on this juiciness, right? Is that I started working with electricity or the lines and currents within the body. And that's what I've been doing since that time, August or September of 2015. I work with that energy, which we call, it could be electrical energy or little lines and currents, maybe this long. At the very beginning, they were real short, maybe like 5 or 6 inches when I was working with my own self. And then eventually I go into full, what they call it, the goosebumps or the cosmic orgasm or just that Kundalini energy. So when I talk about Kundalini energy, basically what I'm suggesting is that I get full goosebumps. And it's kind of like that toroidal field. It's going right down the core, then it expands and it contracts again. So I have many, many opportunities to kind of go into it like a toroidal field, collapsing and then expanding, collapsing and expanding. And so sometimes, when I'm in a session with a person or even working with my own divinity, my own physicality, is I just follow the thread that once I start getting all of those goosebumps or that Kundalini energy, meaning it just feels so good and yummy, it feels so light and yummy, is that I just know that when I'm working with other folks, or even working with my own divinity, I look at those feeling tones or that bhavana of that toroidal field expanding, collapsing, and that's when the energy comes in. And when I'm working with my people or with others, working with my people or myself, is that I know that we're in truth. So that was my big guidance from that session with the reconnection, the work of Eric Pearl, and then bringing it forward. I'm still doing it. I've been doing it ever since I had that session with that beautiful woman. I can't remember her name. It's so silly. I wish I remembered her name. Anyway, but sometimes we find better solutions. We find effective action. If we've got something going on in the body, we start addressing some of the messages from the body. Let's say you've got a little lymphatic over here, maybe there's some stagnant energy. Then I might go, I always work with the subconscious. I say, "Subconscious, can you clear it?" And the answer is always yes. It's all through thought. It's all through thought. And then so eventually and the SC always says keep moving. So it might be I'm taking a walk. I got some stagnant energy in my lymphatic area in this area, and then I just keep walking and then it's gone. Okay. I'm really, really tuned in 100% at the earliest onset of something within my body. And I acknowledge it immediately. It's kind of like, "Hello, call me." And then I just notice what is going on. Then I ask the subconscious, you can go God or source or your angels or whatever it is. I just call it a subconscious, is I want to go ahead and clear that energy and get a better result with the body. And so that's how I work. So I'm very efficient, super quick. Let's get it done. Now, even today I had a session with somebody, or she gave me a session, and I just said sometimes if something is going on with the body and I'm getting a yes, it's going to be cleared, but then it's still there, I ask the subconscious again, "What's going on, people?" And then I always get, "Just keep moving." Just keep moving. The more that you move, moving forward, moving sideways, moving back, it doesn't matter. Just keep moving that body, right? You start having some clarity with the body, and then that starts beginning the clearing. Okay, so I think that's it for today. Today is part 5, a life review with no physical ascension, and this is all about these synchronicities with divine connections, synchronicities, divine beings in helping us with our beautiful sense of self. So have a most beautiful day, and namaste.